Welcome to Springboard Studio's How-To series, where we talk about how to make healthcare more user-friendly. Each episode will cover a skill, process, or concept related to practical design thinking in healthcare, from abstract idea to its real-world impacts. Want to learn more about any given topic? Reach out to us at MGB Springboard Studio at mgb.org. Now, let's get started. This episode covers workflow diagrams and journey mapping, what they are, how they can be used in healthcare, and how our team has used these visuals to create alignment and value for our stakeholders. A journey map is a diagram that visualizes a stakeholder's journey through a particular process. For example, a journey map could explain how a patient gets an appointment with their primary care provider, or how a customer might get a pizza delivered to their home, including how they think and feel across that journey. A workflow similarly explains the steps of a process. Compared to a journey map, a workflow may provide more detail across specific steps and actions, but may leave out the thinking and feeling elements of a process. For our own design work in healthcare, we often use a combination to highlight the appropriate balance of practical steps and emotional reactions for a project's goal, and we have found that the fine distinctions between these formats are less relevant in our work setting. For simplicity, we'll use the term journey map to also include workflows in this episode. Visualizing a process this way can be a helpful resource to get a team on the same page quickly about how a process is currently happening or how it might work when moving forward with a new intervention. Not only can it cut down on the time spent rehashing how a process works, it also can make it more clear and intuitive where there are obstacles or gaps in a current process. For example, if your team is reviewing a journey map of the current process for a patient to schedule an appointment with their primary care provider, you may notice that the only way for a patient to schedule is by phone call. Even better, if you've spoken with patients about this process, you may realize that patients find it inconvenient to have to call by phone. This friction point may lead to an opportunity. For example, you could consider creating a way for a patient to send a message or email to schedule. Interested in learning how to create your own journey map? Before starting, you will need to choose from whose perspective the journey will be from. In healthcare, this often means deciding whether to draft from the provider or patient's point of view, since they will have different experiences even if the end goal is the same, for example, to schedule an appointment. Once you settle on whose journey you are mapping, you can start plotting the journey from left to right across a horizontal line. The journey can be marked with a succession of points, each labeled with the action or event that occurs at that stage chronologically. Some of these points will be decision points that branch off into either multiple pathways or require a yes/no response in order to proceed. Other points will be single points that don't require additional actions, but instead will happen automatically once the previous steps are completed. This is not the only way to visualize this experience, but we found it an easy way to start and is intuitive for an audience to understand. The journey map can be that simple, or it can be revised further to include pain points or challenges within this process, points of delight or opportunity, and even how stakeholders think and feel as they experience this process. To effectively and accurately refer to how people feel and think through these processes, we recommend speaking to those stakeholders directly. Now it's time to explore a case study of this method in action. Working with population health management, our team built journey maps to explain how a patient experiences the process from diagnosis through treatment of chronic kidney disease. One journey map we created was more detailed around the practical steps that a patient would experience. For example, a patient would be diagnosed by their PCP and then referred to a nephrologist. For this journey map, we spoke with providers across the system, including primary care providers, nephrologists, surgeons, and social workers, to understand challenges with the process as it currently is. For another journey map, we focused on a patient's emotional experience through the process and interviewed patients to hear how it felt, leading to a map that showed the high and low points on the diagnosis to treatment continuum. These visuals were invaluable for understanding where there were sticking points in our care delivery processes and where we could intervene with additional support or optimization. In this episode, you learn the basics of using workflows and journey maps to align teams and find opportunities for intervention in care delivery processes. We hope that this gives you the know-how to incorporate this skill set into your own process improvement or design thinking work. Thank you for listening to this episode in Springboard Studio's How-To series. Want to hear about a topic we haven't covered yet? Let us know via email at mgbspringboardstudio@mgb.org.